Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
Corey's here.
Hey, you are here.
I am. I remember my name.
This is one of those shows that Dave is not here, and he's going to regret missing out on.
Yeah, but he's on vacation again on his yearly anniversary trip.
Yearly? I feel like they do an anniversary trip every quarter.
That is true. Does he have 4 anniversaries a year?
Oh, we may not want to get into that. But listeners, maybe one of these days you can go on an anniversary trip with Dave. That didn't come out right either, did it? Yeah, all you got to do is email us, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. We'll get you in the running for that said trip.
Exactly.
Dave's going to love us. But you can send us topic ideas, guest suggestions. We love everything that you have provided us with. And we appreciate the feedback because it's been a while since we, Corey, have talked about wine, but our listeners loved it.
Yeah. One of my new favorite segments. And then it kind of quit for a while. I kind of got sad. So now it's back and I'm excited for it.
You know, you think people actually are a lot like you, and when they don't have wine, they get sad?
Yeah, probably. Wine just makes everything better.
I'm excited because it's a totally different type of agriculture, right? It's something that we don't get to live and breathe every single day, and we've met some really cool people along the way. But that wouldn't be possible without you guys telling us that you like that. You can text us, 515-207-9640, if you've got a favorite wine or even cocktail. I think that'd be kind of fun to hear from them on that side of things. So what do you say? Enough announcements for the day?
Yeah. Our other wine segments were segments.
Yep.
This is a full show.
This is correct.
So we will actually have 2 different wine makers.
Yep.
Viticulture,
Yes.
wine growers, all that kind of stuff. So on this. So this is part 1 of 2.
That's right.
So you ready for me to introduce our first guest?
Let's give them a proper introduction.
Today on the Farm for Fun show, we're firing up an old fling from the West Coast. It's wine time with the Sonoma County Winegrowers. And today our featured guest is the Director of Vineyards at St. Francis Winery and Vineyards. He is a leader in green viticulture. Please welcome from Sonoma County, California, Mr. Jake Terrell.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That feels like I'm coming through a tunnel, ready to hit the field.
We should have our hands above. Yep. Big smoke machines going off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to make everybody there jealous.
Welcome to the show, Jake.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So where are you at right now?
So I am in our beautiful members parlor, tasting room. They don't let me in here very often. I'm normally relegated to the farm office. But it's nice to come in here for this podcast. A much prettier background than my dirty office. So
Yep.
So everybody loves a good tasting room.
We're going to get into your background and how you got to where you are, but we like to open the wine that you guys sent us. Can you explain to me what I'm going to be opening here from St. Francis?
Yeah. So this is one of the vineyards that I farm, that our team farms. It's our 2022 Lago Marcino Vineyard Cabernet. So we only make 700 cases or so of this wine, and it's 100% Cabernet from one vineyard up in northern Sonoma County, a little town called Healdsburg. And it's this great appellation called Russian River. The Russian River appellation is not really known for Cabernet. It's a little bit cooler, but this area in the Russian River appellation is actually quite warm. So we're on the north eastern portion of this appellation, and that's where this all comes from.
One kind of grapes. It's not a blend. One grape, one vineyard. It is not a blend.
It is not a blend. Yep.
I thought our little basketball pump wine cork popper was broken there for a second. I haven't used it for a while.
I know, it's been a while.
Take some pumps.
I did. Did you smell the cork?
I didn't. Should I just drink it right out of the bottle?
No.
Is that how you're supposed to do it? No.
That's not how you're supposed to do it.
Oh.
I need to know. So a taller wine glass versus a shorter wine glass, is that for different colors of wine? Does that mean anything, or is that just a design?
Yeah. So there's different wine glasses for different wines. That's getting pretty nerdy. Of course, there's stemless wine glasses and non-stemless wine glasses. I think that the different glasses for different varietals is a bit of marketing ruse, but those glasses are just fine. I have a similar kind of like all around wine glass here with the same wine. So I managed to scrape up a bottle.
So how long should we let this air out before we try it?
I kind of like to pop and pour and just see how that wine evolves over a couple hours. It's a young wine. I mean, this is just bottled a year and a half ago. Cheers. Yeah, cheers. And 2022 was one of the hottest vintages we've had on record. It was a nice kind of average year, and then right around Labor Day in 2022, we got to middle to high 110. So we got to like 115 to 117 for a week straight. It was really hot, and I don't even have AC in my house. It was not fun.
What?
We didn't harvest some fruit that actually got sunburned, but we have some vineyards that actually withstood the heat and made some really nice wine out of it. They're typically lower tannin, younger drinking wine. So some vintages are nice. They have lower tannin. You can drink them now. The higher tannin vintages you could age and put them in your cellar. This is kind of a great drink now vintage.
This was very smooth. It was
low tannin, exactly. Yeah,
it went right over my tongue. It didn't carry a huge aftertaste. I can see what you mean, because we did learn about the tannins. I couldn't remember what the word was.
You kind of feel it in your cheeks. Yeah.
All I'm thinking about when you say 114 or however, is like the moisture in the grape like boiling. Like it's getting too hot.
Exactly. No, any fruit that didn't have leaf cover actually cooked on the vine. Like it turned to raisins, and the next day it shriveled up to nothing. It was
the plants
wild
that withstood the heat. What would that heat have done to the flavor profile versus a cooler summer?
Yeah. So heat, too much heat or too much sunlight actively degrades your anthocyanins, and those anthocyanins is what produce the tannin in wine. So and color as well. There's an interplay of tannin and color. So a cooler year, the opposite of a too cool of year, you end up with a wine that could be a little bit more like the bell pepper green, characteristics. And then too hot, you get lower tannins, and sometimes those like stewed fruit characteristics, like prunes and
right.
Yeah,
because I wondered when you said sunburnt fruit, I'm like, well, what's it matter? I'm not looking at it. You're gonna squish it, right? Squish it and squeeze it. So what does sunburn matter?
It actually matters a lot. So grapes, red grapes and white grapes, Chardonnay and Cabernet or whatever, all have clear juice. There's some grapes in certain areas that are called Tenturiers, and they have red juice, but all grapes have clear juice. All of the color you get for red wine is in the skins. So if you have half of that berry that is burnt, then you have half of that tannins and that anthocyanins and all that great extraction is gone. So you can end up with wines that are not as extracted and sometimes kind of boring. So all of that fruit had to get cut off. So we ended up with our yields were down by 70%. Some blocks didn't harvest at all, and we cut all that sunburned fruit off, and then of course harvested what was left.
And the anthocyanins are part of what makes wine the health part of wine, right?
Yeah, I'm no doctor. I play one on podcasts, but yes.
We'd be way less healthy if we didn't drink this.
I
right?
know. We will have to finish the bottle.
Exactly what I tell my wife. Funny, I'm drinking it for the high health.
All right, so I got to know, and not having air conditioning in a place that gets that hot has to be a choice.
It doesn't normally get that hot, so I would say probably half our town doesn't have AC. It's not just us.
Really?
It's pretty wild. It was a lot of getting in the cold shower.
Yeah,
but,
I get it.
It was only a week, but yeah, it was not fun.
No,
Luckily, it's low humidity. You guys deal with humidity, which we don't have to.
That is a different heat. Dry heat is different than 90 and 100% humidity.
That's exactly.
Yeah, the humidity makes you just sit there and sweat.
Yep.
You can't figure out why.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are. Have you always grown up in Sonoma County?
No, so actually I grew up down in the central coast of California. So there's a little town called Morro Bay, right on the ocean, about halfway between Los Angeles and San Francisco. A little beach town, beautiful area to grow up. I came up here about 15 years ago, but I didn't grow up in farming. I grew up surfing. We actually had the only high school in California on the beach, so we would go surf at lunch and then come back to fifth period in our wetsuits.
Can you imagine
And
that?
yeah, it's pretty cool. But my dad was a nuclear engineer, so I definitely did not grow up farming. But I've always loved being outside. I've always loved growing things, and I had a job in high school being a dishwasher, and they had this amazing wine collection. They had all these old French wines from the 70s, and it just this idea that you could grow something, put it in a bottle, and then consume it 20, 30, whatever, 50 years later. I just thought it was a real compelling idea. So I actually went to school at a place called Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and studied viticulture. And then right out of the gate, I got a job managing a pretty well-known winery's vineyards, and I was absolutely unqualified for that job. I had no idea what I was doing. But I, it was one of those drinking through from the fire hose kind of thing. And from there, I went to Gallo for about 10 years, one of the largest wineries in California. And then been here at St. Francis for 11 now.
Wow. I've heard of Gallo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone that says Cal Poly, it's a goal to say it as fast as they possibly can, so no one understands what they're saying.
Couple of sentences. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, and I'm known as a mumbler, so I'll try to accentuate that.
Wasn't that where the rodeo queen was from too?
Yeah, there's a lot of people that go to Cal Poly. It's a big ag school. It's not just wine,
yeah.
right?
No, well, I was in the College of Ag, so yeah, I did an ag business degree. They didn't have viticulture then. Actually, they had it the year I graduated, so I did a minor in viticulture.
So it's always fun to compare, right? We're out here, corn, soybean country. We've got farms that we measure by the acres, and one field could be 80 acres. But we've learned through conversations with you winery folks that you don't necessarily have huge footprints. How big's this vineyard that you manage?
So I have 4 different vineyards here in Sonoma County, a total of about 450 acres.
Okay.
So we buy about half our fruit and we grow about half. So it's kind of it's kind of nice to have our feet in both camps. But my biggest vineyard's 175 acres and my smallest is 80. So decent size. The scale helps with equipment and labor and all that. Obviously, viticulture is extremely labor intensive compared to most other row crops. But yeah.
So when you buy, are you buying from the same producers each year, or are you looking for certain characteristics to complement what you've got going on?
Yeah, there's spot market. So like the big companies, like the big corporations, they'll buy fruit on spot market deals. That's typically lower end wine. All of our growers we've been working with for years and years, and we work with them on sustainable certifications and their farming practices. And so it's actually kind of cool to be able to work with, not only my vineyards, but work with all these other growers. I mean, we've been working with Old Vine Zinfandel growers for 25, 30 years, the same grower, then that these same exact vines they've been farming for 4 generations. So it's pretty cool to be a part of that heritage.
Yeah. I want to talk about some of the tasting notes that Corey's getting out of this wine, because he's a pro. Before we get back into the way he introduced you with you being a green viticulture, so I'm curious to learn more about that. But what are you getting on your
I mean, you said it earlier. It was very low tannin profile. Not a lot of that dry, astringency, I would say. Very easy drinking. I could definitely slam a bottle of this.
You didn't say anything about taste. Like I get.
Do I have to? I mean, I get grapes.
Because I get fruit. Like there's some wines don't come on. I feel like this is a less harsh, right? That's the lower tannins, but I do get some fruity. Of course, I don't know if my mind's playing with me, but like a darker fruit, like a cherry-ish.
Yep.
Like a stone fruit.
What is a stone fruit?
I don't know. It's on all herbicide labels.
No.
do we-
Spray this on black currants and stone fruit.
Oh, what are we supposed to be tasting, Jake?
Yeah, I think I can hear everything you guys are saying. That's pretty much right on. I think I think Cabernets, depending on vintages and where it's grown, can range from like the red fruit category, so like your your raspberries, strawberries, or to your black fruit or blue fruit side, which is blackberries and blueberries, boysenberries. I think this leans in the vintage and in this area towards more the red fruit side, so like the plum, raspberry side of things, and definitely get some nice, like, some sage, some olive tamponade.
Sage.
See, you know what we need is we need to have some of these fruits here that we can
exactly.
try and be like, yeah, it's definitely more like that one.
I don't know
what I think.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, I was going to say what I think one of the funnest things about wine, and I think the unique part about it is, the wine has a typicity for each fruit where it's grown. So regionally, if you have a Sangiovese from the Chianti region, or you have a Sonoma Cabernet or a Napa Cabernet, all of these wines have this typicity that I think is unique to what we do. If you have a really nice, cucumber, this is a northern Ohio cucumber. It's just cucumber. It's amazing that wine shows a place. And I think there's only a couple things that do that. Maybe coffee a little bit. I think cigars a little bit can do that, or tobacco. But it's a pretty compelling thing to find, and that's why I like it so much. My dog's barking at me over here.
That's all right. We like dogs too. They can come on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, you said, what was it, 2022?
Yep.
And it's a young wine. Will this become an old wine? Like, can this stay in the bottle? Will this stay in the bottle for 10, 15, 30 years, or will this all be gone by then?
I think this wine specifically, I think there's other vintages that will age better. I think the 21 and the 23, I think, are great to age. I think the 22, this will be good for 5 to 10 years, but the 21 and the 23, I think it could be good for 20 years. The level of tannin and acid typically dictate how well a wine ages. So, like, for instance, the wines from the northern Italy, in Barolo and Barbaresco, they have really high tannin, really high acid. Those wines, you don't even look at them for 20 years, and they're really good for like 50 plus.
Yeah.
So low tannin here, I would drink this wine sooner than later.
Okay. And then you're the director of vineyards. So do you have much to do with the actual winery side?
So, not directly. So we have 2 winemakers. I sit in on tastings, and and I would say I have a passion, and wine is my passion, hobby, and vocation. It's kind of a fun thing. But no, we have a full wine team and wine production. I just do the vineyard side. So we have 35 full-time employees, tractor drivers, and mechanics, that kind of stuff.
So what does it mean then to be the operator of a green vineyard or do green viticulture?
Yeah, I think I think there's obviously many different ways to farm. I think one of the ways that you can really show a wine can show its place really well is, I think, by helping those vines grow with improving your soil, limiting your water, all that kind of stuff. So I think the green viticulture really plays into, I think, wine quality pretty well. And again, this isn't a commodity we're farming. It's supposed to be this interesting beverage we drink, and everyone's different. Every wine's different. So we do a lot of fun things in the vineyard where I don't really use any nitrogen. All of our nitrogen comes from cover crops, and we actually make our own compost. I should say I don't make it. I have a gentleman who makes it and mixes it with organic cow manure. We get all of our nitrogen from that. We do a lot of fun stuff. No herbicides on most of our land now. We love to innovate and every year come up with new stuff. And our boss, our CEO, is all for it and lets me kind of run with it. It's pretty fun.
So that's interesting. You said cover crop. Like I remember driving out there when we were out there for World Ag Expo, that you've got stuff planted between the rows of these vines anyway. Is that really what a cover crop is? Just that you got grass out there?
So that you can, there's quote native cover crops. We plant all our cover crops at every ranch and every kind of block. We kind of fine tune based on the needs, organic matter or nitrogen. So it's some mix of legumes and barley or bell beans, a little bit of everything. So or even some brassicas in areas with high clay. Every ranch gets something different, but we're very intentional about the cover crops we put in, since that is our main source of nitrogen in addition to the cover crops.
What's your go-to for the best nitrogen?
We do a lot of just legumes. So we'll do nitrogen fixing cover crops. Bell beans. We do a lot of those. And some years they do better than others, but this year was not a good stand for bell beans. I don't know why, but and not only do we plant cover crops in every block that we're tilling. We do a lot of no-till as well, but every block that we're tilling, we put cover crops in, and then we actually, when we mow it, we disc it down in the exact same day. I don't want it all that organic matter just drying up on the soil surface. So we till it in the same day and really try to get that to biodegrade underground. So it's our springs are quite busy.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. I just figured it was planted to grass and you just mowed in between every row of vines.
So we do plant permanent grass in some of our, so typically we do every other row. So every one row is tilled with cover crops and then we put compost in it. And then the other row is done with a perennial grass that we seed in. And then every 4 years we switch that. So we're That's kind cool. Of constantly, we keep a calendar of what did we do 3 years ago?
So if you drive by any of we only have a few wineries here in Iowa. The row is always bare. Like you can tell they spray around the base of the vines. Are you planting the cover crops right up to the base?
Oh, that's a good question. No, so we, and the difference of us out here in the West Coast and you guys is summer rainfall. We get 0 summer rainfall. So we're 6 months dry. That's just normal. So under the vine, we do either herbicides or mechanical tillage. And so we've been going more and more to mechanical tillage. And then the middles, so you have we call it your berm, which is under the vines. And those are typically like 24 to 36 inches wide. And then your middles where you're driving, your mowing, your discing, all that stuff. That's either mowed or disked based on your cover crop practice for that row.
And some of these vines are 100 years old.
So, unfortunately, I don't find any farm any old vines, but there's a couple varietals like Zinfandel that can grow really old. Actually, before I was here, I farmed a vineyard called Monte Rosso for many years, and that is actually the largest old vine Zinfandel planting in the world. 50 acres of vines planted in the 1880s.
Wow.
And there's a rootstock called St. George that is not very doesn't get diseases very often or very easily. And then Zinfandel itself just doesn't show the effects of virus. So the combination of those two lend itself to being really to being really old. So we, like I said, we buy from some 100-year-old vines that have been the same family's farmed it for 3, 4, 5 generations.
Yeah.
So what's this growing year looking like it's shaping up to be? You said 21 and 23 are good aging. 22 is smooth like we've been tasting.
Yep.
What's your prediction for 25?
Yeah. So far it's a boring year, and boring years are good years. No big extremes. We did have some heat right around Memorial Day. We got to almost 100, but it wasn't too crazy. But, it's relatively cool so far. We got a little bit of heat today. So far yields are big. We had about average rainfall. So the vines are growing pretty well. So we just, out here, we just hope for no extremes, whether it's, heat or, fires or whatever. So we're just, knock on wood, hoping we get some good boring weather the rest of the year.
And we're talking to you middle end of June. When's harvest start?
So we typically start some of our whites probably middle to end of August. So we get a couple months really before we start. And our harvest is pretty condensed. It's 2 months or so. Where I know some of these lettuce guys are harvesting whatever multiple times a year.
Yeah.
Those are real farmers. I'm I'm a gentleman farmer compared to those guys. But yeah, so we have a pretty condensed, like 2-month harvest.
So talk more about St. Francis. What's the scope of the wines they offer, grapes they grow, how long they've been in business, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so our first vintage was 79. We've been in Kenwood for geez, almost or 50 years. So started as grape growers in 71, first vintage in 79. So we've 50-something years now. We've been growing grapes and making wine here in Kenwood. So we kind of make a lot of different wines. It's actually kind of fun. We have everything from the Cabernet you're having now to Chardonnay, Merlot. We were making Merlot when Merlot wasn't cool. So Merlot's been one of our big focuses. Yeah, a little bit of everything. We have a restaurant on site that we do tastings with. Yeah, everyone gotta come out and see us, join us.
You got a restaurant on site?
We do food and wine pairings. Yeah, I mean, obviously, food and wine are that great combo of 1 + 1 = 3, right? So yeah, we've had a restaurant here for many years. It's not permitted as a restaurant. It's a food and wine pairing. So you don't come in and order a la carte. It's you come in and sit down. It's a seated tasting where you have a number of wines, and then the chef pairs different dishes with those wines to really showcase what the wine, how the interplay of food and wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, full tasting room and a little event center. We do quite a bit of weddings out here as well.
Everyone invites us when we're on recordings, but then after the recording's off, we never get the actual invitation. So I'm still waiting.
You're always
for
welcome. You're always welcome.
I was just telling my wife last week that I think NASCAR is going out there in a couple weeks to do the Sonoma track and the road course, and I'm like, we should go out there. That'd be cool. Just go see that. Go do some wineries. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's only about 40 minutes south of here.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
So I just went out to the website, and a lot of our listeners are from all over across the United States. Is the website the best route for them to go if they want to try the wine that we're tasting or try some of the others? Yeah,
so we have wines that are nationally distributed. So there's wines, Midwest to East Coast, South. The wine you're tasting, though, is only available in our tasting room. So we have these are single vineyard wines, single estate wines, or appellation wines. So we have probably 25 wines we offer here at the tasting room. Out in the market, at your fine wine stores and some restaurants, you'll see our Sonoma County appellated wines. So it's like the entire appellation, not just one vineyard. So yeah, it depends on what you want. If you want the single vineyard wines, go to our website. If you want our Sonoma County wines, hopefully your wine stores in your area will have it.
Yep, stfranciswinery.com, and it also says call or text 707-833-0254. So a couple different ways.
That's my number. Wait a minute. No.
Send him bad text in the middle of the night.
Yeah. No inappropriate pictures, please.
So did you pick this wine out to send, or what's your favorite?
I did, yeah. And the reason is that this is one of my favorite vineyards I farm. It's really steep. It's up in the hills. And it's one of these vineyards that I think some of the best wines come from those beautiful vineyards. And it overlooks the whole city of Healdsburg. It's about 130 acres of Cabernet, all in different slopes and aspects and orientations to the sun. And this comes from a couple of different little blocks that our winemaker and I pick out. And I just think it's a great example of what Cabernet could be in Sonoma.
That's great. Well, I'm on their website. You can get the St. Francis Merlot at Costco in Ankeny. And you can pick up a Cabernet Sauvignon, which is not the one we just had. This is a different vintage at Hy-Vee in Ames. So just here in central Iowa, we've got 2 close access. So I know if you type your zip code into stfranciswine.com, you'll be able to look it up for yourself. But
Winery.
Oh, St. Francis.
I mean, I said it right, but you didn't.
.com.
I mean, I got a question though. So we're always talking wine, and I haven't asked this on one of these yet.
Mm-hmm.
If you aren't drinking wine but still having a cocktail or a drink, what is it?
Oh, I've been in Negronis quite a bit lately. I think it's a great, nice bitter summer cocktail.
What was that?
Into what?
Negroni.
What is that?
I thought you said a green. I didn't know if
Negroni. So a Negroni is equal parts sweet vermouth, Campari, and gin. It's like the quintessential Northern Italian cocktail.
I tell you what, we'll send the vermouth because we got a case of that we acquired with the bourbon collection somehow. And you send us a case of wine and we'll be good.
Perfect.
Equal parts gin, vermouth. Man, I just don't like gin.
It's not a gin. It's more of a bitter cocktail.
Okay.
But you could substitute the gin for bourbon, and that's a Boulevardier.
Ooh, Boulevardier. I just like that word.
Yeah.
Did you spell that?
I did. Yeah. I was told there'd be no spelling on this podcast.
Boulevard.
That's cool. Well, no, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. It's always fun for us, right? I think our listeners enjoy it right alongside of us, and appreciate the gift of the wine too for us to give a taste.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good job growing it. Drinks well.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I look forward to trying some more, but for this time, that's what we've got to chat with you. Hopefully there's another time for us to connect and continue this conversation more.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Good being here.
Well, that was fun having that conversation, getting to meet Jake.
Very good wine.
But he's only the first half of this episode.
Absolutely.
Which is kind of like spoiling us. We get to try 2 different wines.
Yeah. How many of these segments can we fit into one show?
I wonder how long it would take before that last segment wasn't as good as the first show.
Yeah. Might not be able to make out what I'm saying.
You already can't.
Slurring, yeah.
It's already a struggle for you.
I do. Sometimes wine hits me a lot. Since I don't drink it all the time, I get a little flushed.
Well, we did get to record this one at the end of the afternoon, so it's been a while since lunch.
Yeah.
And that's probably the best time to drink wine.
Yeah. Well, you didn't give me time to eat lunch, so.
Slave driver.
Yep.
All right, we got another guest sitting here in our virtual studio. You want to get him introduced?
I will. Part 2 of this Wine Time Fun show with the Sonoma County Winegrowers takes us to one of the original Italian farming families in the Dry Creek Valley. Please welcome owner of the Puccioni Ranch and Vineyards, Mr. Glenn Proctor.
Yeah.
Very good.
I chose
a little. Yeah. Go ahead.
I chose to try the Italian way, but what's the Americanized way of saying it?
Well, you said Puccioni, but we say sometimes Puccioni. We say it a little bit harder of a C, but you sounds like you got a little Italian blood in you. You did a really good job with that.
I probably just watched a few too many movies.
So are there mafia ties?
Well, it's always an interesting story. Yes. I mean, there's always some ties. So our family came over from the Lucca area of Italy in the late 1800s, and then we bought our ranch in 1904, my great-grandfather. So we've been there a few years, and there's a few. One, they bought it for like 10,000 gold pieces, and I guess after about 5 years and they improved the property, the person who had sold it to them and they still had a loan with wanted the 10,000 cash now. So supposedly my great-grandfather had some contacts in San Francisco, got some money to pay him off. We don't know where that money came from. And then during Prohibition, they had a winery for a period of time, and they had some sacramental uses of the wine, medicinal, but for some reason they got investigated a few times and by the TTB or at that point, or Bureau BATF. And so it found out they were bringing the wine over the hill. Now, I don't think we ever got in trouble, but what was told, they brought it over the hill to the guy they called the chemist. He would distill it into grappa, and then they'd run it out of there, then run it to San Francisco to sell. So just your normal kind of connections. No, marketing the product.
We have actually learned about the Prohibition time, and like we've done some bourbon tours, and that was how they did it, was medicinal, right? Yes. So they got their prescriptions from the doctors for it. So
it's either medicinal or sacramental, right? So you could sell it to the church or sell it to somebody in that regard. But it seems like to survive, they all did a couple different things. So, but our family's been doing it a long time. We've kind of continued after the first 100 years. We wrote a business plan for the next 100 years. So we're trying to keep it around. I mean, farming and longevity are valued, but seem to be getting a little harder as time goes by. So we're working at it. But We do some Zinfandel and Petite Syrah from Sonoma County, and we also do a Sauvignon Blanc from Lake County. So all these vineyards originally planted by my great-grandfather many years ago. We farmed with a mule and plow until 1968. Now, the mule died. Now, my uncle would say, be careful when you tell the story, because we didn't work the mule to death. It died of old age. But and then we got a tractor. And, of course, in 68, I think we bought a 1950 Johnny Pop, 2-cylinder John Deere tractor. So we really don't go new, but kind of done it the old way in terms of what we've done. Still, a lot of the vineyard is old vine, head train, kind of the way they did it many years ago. But we have a lot of fun. To me, it's really family and history and that tie-in of who's come before and us trying to leave it in a little better place. And it's really a labor of love.
What was that second grape that you mentioned?
So we have Zinfandel, which you have. Then there's another grape, Petite Syrah, which I didn't get a chance to show you. So that's a little darker, different. And traditionally, actually, a little bit of Petite Syrah is blended in Zin. So the Zinfandel you guys are opening now actually has about 15% Petite Syrah in it. Gives it a little bit of mid-mouth palate and body to kind of go with the spice of the Zin. Whoa!
Yeah, we got a basketball pump for a wine cork popper. Came off the TikTok shop. It's kind of fun.
It's exactly right.
I sent this to Tanner.
Go with whatever works.
Yeah, I sent this to Tanner, and we were using regular old corkscrews, which was fun to watch me struggle with. But I said this would be even more entertaining to watch me open a bottle with. Got that little pop on it too. So,
well, if you get in trouble, and I think I was in Arkansas when I did this, you can put it. You take this, you put your shoe in here, and then you can pound it against a tree, and then the cork will come out a little bit too. So there's different ways when you're in need that you can work on opening the bottle. So tricks of the trade.
I've used the screw, and sometimes you just push it in, because the bottle's you're gonna finish it, right?
It works. Yes.
Yeah.
So while Corey pours this out, tell us a little bit about what you sent us to try.
So this is our 22 vintage old vine Zinfandel. So all these vines, much of the Zinfandel in this is from vines that are 100 years old, all head pruned, grown on our Pachoni Ranch. So we've got about 15% of Petite Syrah blended in, like I said, to give it some of that body. Go ahead and taste it. I mean, we're trying to make wines that kind of represent the land they're from. I kind of watched some earlier things. You can have unique characters by where you grow your grapes. So it's got pretty medium body, has a lot of spice to it, I think you'll find.
Very sweet on the nose.
But we're really tiny, so it's hard to find us. So we don't make a lot in terms of what we do. So there's only about 150 cases we made of what you're tasting.
150 cases.
Yeah, that's so pretty hard to find.
Okay, so my first question, I expected this to come out white,
like a
really?
white Zen.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that. That is we're interesting.
We're like box wine guys.
Like that was just my initial thought.
Yeah.
So a wine like this, a Zin, is it best served room temperature, chilled? How do you consume ideally?
Well, I think with a red wine like this, kind of in a claret style, which is it's medium body, probably won't be as big as like a Cabernet, but it can be depending on how you make it. But usually you want to serve these at room temperature, though I will say a lot of people don't serve red wines over the summer, right? Because, is it too warm? You can chill this slightly, especially around the occasion, around the timing of it, to also make it more refreshing. I mean, when I was a kid, this goes back to how I was raised. I think I was 4 years old. My grandfather, we were at the table. He had the jug wine on his right leg. He'd pull it off the floor. I'd have a glass of water, and he'd go half and half, right? Kind of called it my Kool-Aid. But we always drank it with family. We always drank it with the meal. But it was good, right? You kind of enjoyed it. So I'm a big believer in what you like is good. And sometimes with wine, we get so worried about what we should or shouldn't do, we forget that we're actually there to kind of enjoy it and have a little fun with it. So, but yeah, usually you're going to serve that at room temperature is traditionally how it would be done. A lot of times, red meats, pasta goes real well with it. It's got a little bit of a spice on the finish that kind of, I think, allows it to do that. But you can serve it with anything. Yeah.
This wine is about room temperature because Corey was complaining about how cold it was in here.
It was cold.
So I just Googled, right? The wine shows up. Appreciate you sending it. I Google, I say, are you supposed to chill Zinfandel? And Google says, it says, yes, you're supposed to chill it to between 50 and 60 degrees.
So and that's kind of room temperature. So it depends on how you look at that. So, yeah, I mean, you're right, but it depends. So it's a cellar temperature. Let's go with that. So that's probably, if you look up cellar temperature, that's what you'll find when I say that. Yes.
We're drinking it now a little colder than cellar.
Right.
So yeah, you'd want to keep this like in your basement.
Right.
Yeah, but like 55 to 60 is kind of cellared. So that's kind of like when you bring it out, you probably wouldn't want to sit in the sun, kind of a room temperature. But if you assume your house is 60 to 65, something like that, you're probably okay.
Well, we talked tannins with the first guest, with Jake. I can tell it has more tannins than the previous wine that we had tried. There's a little bit more on your tongue.
You sure it's not that spice?
Oh, it could be the spice.
I kind of got that like in the back of the throat. Yeah. Like a little spice.
Yeah, sometimes with ours you get a little black pepper, kind of almost a black pepper spice in the finish. And then think of like, it's kind of a red to dark fruit, but kind of a berry, a jam, just a touch of jamminess to it. That's usually Zin has that spice and jamminess to it.
So I know it's one of those things, right? Somebody says a fruit and then you're like, oh, I can taste it. But before you said that, I had plum in my brain. I could taste that a little bit. And it's just still, granted, ours is chilled, but it's still really refreshing.
It is. It's good. Yep. I wanted to read you talked about the mule. Early on, we plowed the vineyards with our mules. Prince, our last mule, would always quit work at 6 p.m. and head for home, no matter what. He said, we are as stubborn as Prince when it comes to doing things the right way. So we are pleased to share our limited production Old Vine Zinfandel. Salute. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it really is kind of when I went to school and got a lot of education, I guess, or supposedly so, I remember coming back to my grandfather and he goes, what are you going to school for? I taught you everything you know. So there's always this experiential knowledge combined with kind of the technical knowledge. So it's a little bit of trying to marry those and combine those and, learn from the past, but also try to move it forward if you can.
So talk to me about this 150 cases. Like that, to me, it doesn't sound like a lot. So is that like a very high value wine, or how do you?
We're tiny. We retails for about $40. So I've been in the wine business for a number of years, working for larger wine companies. I have a brokerage company where I broker wine and grapes, both domestically and internationally. But so we do about 300 cases a year in total production. So it's not a lot. We've kept it small. I think we want to make sure we can sell the wine and not age it ourselves and not sell it, as you know. But we've kind of made it fun, but it really is a passion of what we do. But we're a micro winery when it comes to size.
Okay, very cool.
Well, yeah, that's really cool. It allows so much attention to detail, the boldness of the flavor. I jumped ahead. Normally we kind of do these things in order, but I already went to the website.
Oh,
and
there you go.
You guys have a wine club.
We do. That's kind of, people could join the wine club. We send out wine twice a year. Most of our sales are online, so you can get on our list there and put your email address in if you're interested. We are not heavy pressure salespeople. I think we're doing it, and hopefully people enjoy it and take something from it. So and I've got a younger son. My oldest son thinks he wants to run the world and be an investment banker. My younger son is just going to start a journey at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo on wine and vit and ag business. So see where he goes. So yeah, we'll see how it all turns out. But yeah, kind of a family affair.
So did you go to Cal Poly?
Ooh, I went to Fresno State, a great school, California State University, Fresno. And then after that, I got my master's at UC Davis. So
Well,
kind of stayed in California. Yeah.
We could tell, right? He said it a lot slower.
He said it a lot slower. Anyone that goes there says it really fast.
Yeah. Which one?
Cal Poly.
Oh,
they're always like Cal Poly. Yeah.
They call it slow. I still am learning that, but they've got a good program too. But yeah.
So did you come straight back to the vineyard? Yeah, I was going to say farm. Did you come straight back to the farm after college?
Yeah. No, I ended up, went through, I wanted to be a farm advisor. That was my goal in life. But I think we were going through some budget cuts in California at the time. So I was in line for one, but they couldn't open up the position. And so I ended up working in the industry. So I worked for a couple larger brands for about 20 years. I was helping on the ranch, but it's, I don't know if you guys have seen generational transition, had to wait for the right time to understand my place in that. So that's kind of when we did the second 100 years. And then once I kind of left working for larger wineries, I had the opportunity to do something on my own. And that's kind of where I really engaged. I wasn't working for a larger winery, so I had the ability to be a little more entrepreneurial. So that was we started making our first vintage in 2003. Again, now there was wine made, like I said, there was a bonded winery number, in the 1918s when the winery was first registered right before Prohibition and during Prohibition. So they kept the winery open about 20 years in that time frame.
And when you said you got to do something on your own, you're talking about the brokerage?
Well, no. When you're working for larger wine companies, sometimes they don't love you doing your own brand at the same time. I think that's changed over time. So I was working for a couple like Diageo, which was they had wine and larger spirits brand. So when I left that and I got my new gig where I'm not an owner, I said, hey, I'm going to be making some wine. Is that okay? And that's, kind of negotiated that going in. So it made it a little easier. Yeah.
You talked about the transition process, and that's farm succession, farm transition is one of our largest topics that we always have. And I don't care whether you're farming grapes or cattle or corn or cotton, it don't matter. It's a tough subject. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into it, and a lot of money that gets transitioned. Then you have family involved and splitting up and all that. It's just very emotional. One of our things that consistently comes up is leave the farm and go get experience off the farm. And so you did that for 20 plus years. And I'm sure at the time, if you wanted to go back and farm, that was kind of frustrating. But now looking back, was that very fulfilling? It had to help you with where you're at now, right?
Yeah. And I think we're of the size. So, we've got like 25 acres of vineyard. We have a lot of redwoods and stuff on the ranch. It's 200 acres total. But probably the financial stability wasn't there to enter back, but I do, there wasn't a big enough opportunity. But I think going and work other places from a family farm type of thing is great experience. So for me, I think that was, it kind of allowed you to look at what else is out there. I know a lot of family operations that they encourage or require the younger generation to go work, years in other jobs to see that before they even think about coming back. And I think that gives perspective about how hard it is. And then I think kind of some appreciation for what it is. And I think with farming, I'm a little biased. If you're going to do it, you got to want to do it. It's not this get rich quick scheme. So, you really have to have the passion to go out there and want to do it. And I think, maybe it's harder. It's just different. But, there's a lot of other things people can do. So I think you've also got to have that desire to come back and work, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So it's a micro winery in your words, but do you plan to expand it, or do you like where it's at now?
Well, I think that's a great question. We have the ability to, one of the sayings in the wine industry is the hard part's selling it, the easy part's making it. So there's always that, right, in terms of what's your route to market and where that goes. But yeah, we'd like to over time expand it, especially as I maybe get more time or bring a younger generation in that can spend some effort on it. But yeah, no, I think we enjoy doing it, and I think as long as people appreciate it, we will continue to do it.
Yep.
But yeah, how big does it get? I think it just depends. No way will we force something, right? Because the goal here is to keep this around a long time versus, making it grow and selling it or doing some things like that. I mean, that's kind of, we're trying to keep things where they are, which is hard in the ag, world.
Yep.
It seems like the only time you make money is with asset appreciation. It's pretty tough to, on a yearly basis to sit there and say, oh, look what my margins I'm taking back. It's a tough one, but yeah, that's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Is it hard to get rid of wine? I mean, you're making an alcohol. I figured it'd be flying off the shelves.
Yeah, I mean, I think with anything, there's people that appreciate it, and it's just getting it into the right hands, in the right timing. I think we have had, when you look at alcohol sales, beverage alcohol sales over, since kind of COVID has kind of come off, we have seen wine, beer, and spirits more recently show some decline in terms of consumption. So I think people are adjusting from that, pantry stuffing and trying to understand where alcohol is going to kind of settle out. But yeah, no, I think it's a great beverage. It goes with food, social enjoyment. But not everybody's a wine drinker. I don't know why, but not everybody's a wine drinker. We think it's a great product. But times are a little tougher. There's no doubt about that.
Do you see where my mind's going?
A little bit.
What do you think? We need a farm for profit wine.
Yeah, we could have 150 cases sitting right behind us. I mean, we can make that disappear real quick.
Yeah, we work out a deal. So
we can be the central Midwest hub. You just pick it up here.
Well, I think, like I said, I think it's, we just enjoy telling the story, and I think hopefully it resonates with people, kind of that history. And hopefully it's a wine people like. I mean, we like it, but we're probably a little biased. Yeah.
So we learned this wine's also a 2022. The wine that we had before was a 2022. And we learned a little bit about what that year was like growing conditions wise. You're also in Sonoma County. How's the year been growing this year's crop?
Yeah, this year's been pretty normal. We had a good spring, relatively warm weather. Right now we're looking, as we sit here, kind of the season looks normal. We're not behind or ahead, versus like in 24, everything was probably 2 or 3 weeks early. We look at the 25 vintage, it looks pretty normal. The crop looks relatively average. So I think, it always depends how it kind of finishes in terms of ripening and getting it pulled off and that harvest timing. But everything looks very good so far in terms of expectations on quality. And then hopefully the weather forecast, which it means absolutely nothing, but is hopefully over the next couple months, they're saying, it's going to be pretty stable. It's always with us. It's harvest time, and some of that inclement weather you can get in September and October when you're trying to pick your grapes make things a little more interesting. But so far so good.
Yeah. How important is the Sonoma County Winegrowers to you? I mean, as a micro winery vineyard, how important are they?
Well, to be clear, I was on the board for 11 years and I was chairman, so I've been very involved. But I think it's important because I think as producers, both from a grape and wine side, you've got to go out there and represent and market yourself and communicate outside. I think agriculture in too many ways we complain and talk to each other, really don't go out and engage and talk and tell our stories. So for me, I think we need a voice. We need to be engaged with potential consumers, with gatekeepers, with writers, with all that, so we can get our story out. And agriculture, we're not growing that many more agricultural people. So we've even got to tell, there seems to be more homeowners, but less out there growing and farming things. So I think we've got to be extra vigilant in terms of telling our story and communicating what we're trying to do. So I think it's very necessary and very important to have that marketing arm.
Well, you've got good people in there. I mean, having met Carissa and connected with her team members, you certainly have a lot of good things going for you. And I know I'm going to butcher exactly what sports teams it is, but it was cool to hear the story that she was headed to like a Texas Rangers baseball game, and they were doing wine.
Well, I know we have the Rockets, and then there's the Giants. I'm trying to think. I may miss a few in there.
Yeah,
there's a hockey team we're doing, and I think there's another basketball thing in there I may be missing. But yeah, we've been trying to engage in that sports marketing. Yeah.
I thought that was kind of neat that, whatever team it was, that there was a connection that they're venturing out as to, it doesn't have to just be a beer night. We can have wine nights.
Well, I think part of it with wine is even like how you guys were joking and Corey was sitting there with opening the cork is sometimes we make it too difficult, right? I mean, so I think part of wine and enjoying wine is, I think even having it in whether it's pouches or smaller, just being able to enjoy it, right? Sometimes I think the mystical nature of wine sometimes hurts us, right? Because it scares people off from just enjoying it and trying it. And I think having that sports connection kind of helps demystify some of that too.
Well, I will say that. I mean, up until that relationship started when we went out to California, I think I'd maybe drank wine a dozen times in my life. Mm-hmm. And it's become a much more frequent consumption of mine to enjoy and try to figure out those flavors and try to dive deeper into it. It's no secret to our audience that Corey and I enjoy bourbon, and we do kind of the same things, right? Tasting notes within a bourbon and the vintage and how it's aged. And it's cool to compare the industries, but the whole wine in a can, just pop the top and go is.
It's dangerous is what it is, and it's good.
Well, but
it's
it's become more popular. I think you've got screw tops on things. You've got different packaging. I think you've got people now looking at some lower alcohol products, two that are 9% versus 13%. So I think there's opportunities within the wine space for people to enjoy it. I mean, we did is many years ago, but when I was working at a larger winery, so I think I actually got to work the Midwest, but we had called red wine with fish. And it was all about enjoying wine. It was like, I would tell people, okay, you're looking at this wine. What does it taste like? Well, think it like your hamburger, right? What do you like on your hamburger? You like your bun toasted? Do you like mustard? Do you like mayonnaise, ketchup? Do you like cheese, not cheese? Well, you enjoy that. Wine should be the same thing. I enjoy this wine. That's great, right? Instead of going, oh, should I not? Why do I? So I think you need to make it a little bit fun, like you're talking about with bourbon and other products where you're enjoying them. You're talking to somebody about it. It makes it interesting. So it's not water. So I think that's the nice thing.
You had a good question that you asked Jake. You should ask Glenn.
They were all good. Which one was it?
They were all good. What's the drink outside of?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we're always talking wine on these wine segments. Obviously, a wine segment. If you're not drinking wine, what are you drinking?
Oh, from my perspective, I would tend to be a little biased that I drink wine. I used to work at Diageo, which was big into Scotch. So Lagavulin, which is kind of a real peaty, mossy kind of Scotch. Every once in a while, I'll dive into that kind of a different flavor profile. But I usually stick with wine or I hate to say it, I still drink Coors Light. So that's kind of my.
You gotta have an old go-to, once in a while.
All right. I get to experience Scotch every once in a while. I've got a brother-in-law that's really big and into it, and I'm not a peaty fan. I'll stay away from the peated Scotches. It just tastes like dirt. Yeah.
It tastes different, but but I think that's, just to each his own. You get a chance to appreciate different things. And it's a fun thing. And I even think with like my kids, there's kind of a respect for alcohol. So it's not like I'm drinking it to enjoy it, not drinking it to go, whatever, achieve something else. You're really, talking about it, enjoying it. It's open. It's, what do you think? I think those are kind of things that also make it healthy long-term for, how you appreciate the beverage.
I just had a revelation, Corey. Our podcast has matured as it's aged because we
started out with Boone's Farm, and now we've got
we as a podcast and our alcohol relationship started off with how many different things can we mix with Busch Light?
Yeah.
Yep.
And now we get to enjoy fine bourbons and fine wines.
Yeah. And I'll still mix something with a Busch Light just to see.
That's great.
So the best place to buy is the website?
Yeah, the best place is it's just PaccioniVineyards.com. Rolls right off your tongue. But yeah. But yeah, that's the best place. As you do there, send a note if you're interested. We do have in Total Wines in certain stores actually carries a little bit of it as a kind of a special. So sometimes you can find it there. So yeah.
So PucciniVineyards.com.
Nobody's gonna get that.
Puccioni.
Well, we used to have a kicking mule. Yeah, with the C to help but then we took the mule's still kind of on there, but it's we tried to, but it's a little hard to pronounce. It doesn't roll right off
the back. He's with the plow.
Yeah.
See him?
Yeah,
right there. My challenge is, so this is a 2-part show. We got St. Francis and Puccioni. I want one of our listeners, or I want a lot of our listeners, to go buy one of these. And so for the first bottle, I see if someone enjoying one of these of our listeners and tags Farm for Profit and St. Francis, I'll send a swag pack Farm for Profit hat to you. And so make sure you tag us in that. We want to see him. So I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
No, it's nice. We appreciate the support and appreciate what you guys are doing, getting the message out. So very valued, and thank you.
Yeah. Glenn, we appreciate the time. It's always fun to get to meet the individual growers out there in Sonoma County. I'm excited for the rest of this series. Listeners, make sure you stay tuned as far as that goes. But for now, Corey, what do you tell them?
Say, pop a top with the basketball pump wine cork popper. You deserve a nice glass of Zinfandel from Puccioni.
I just want to keep saying that.
I don't even think I'm saying it right, but cheers.